Sonic Lab
TV.
Hello and welcome to another Sonic Lab. Today we're looking at a drum machine. Not just any drum machine, this is the Tempest analog drum machine from Dave Smith Instruments and Roger Linn Design. They've come together to create a new instrument using both of their expertise, for which they do have an awful lot of experience. Let's not forget, Dave Smith is one of the founding fathers of MIDI, a standard that we still use today to control our instruments. He also pioneered the affordable polysynth with the Prophet 5 and various other instruments through his time at Sequential Circuits. He continues to make synthesizers today with the new Prophet 08 and also the Tetra and Mofo models that he continues to make. Roger Linn, of course, is essentially the grandfather, I hope he doesn't mind me saying that, of the drum machine. He created the Linn drum, which was the first affordable drum machine, and spawned a whole new genre of studio musicians using drum machines instead of drummers. He also invented the Akai MPC, which is a format that's still used today, and without which we probably wouldn't see an awful lot of hip hop and techno stuff. Anyway, what we have here is a 6-voice analog drum machine with 16 pads. Very small form factor, looks lovely. Let's get it on the bench and see what it's made of. So here it is, I've got it on my rotating cake stand, which I'm very pleased to be using. You can see we've got a nice black and blue OLED display, lots and lots of knobs. These are the synthesis functions. 16 pressure and velocity sensitive pads with a backlit blue LED that lights up. These two kind of controller touch and pressure sensitive controllers that are assignable to various functions. The synthesis engine features 4 oscillators, 2 analog, 2 digital, and then there's this quite familiar topography and layout that if you're used to the Evolver, the Tetra, the Mofo, these are very familiar Dave Smith synthesis engines. We've got transport control, navigation, additional outputs here, output controls. We've got distortion, compression and volume. These two are programmable, BPM knob, and various different mode buttons and things for swapping what the pads do and what the front panel does. Around the back we have headphone output, main stereo outputs, plus 6 individual outputs for each voice. Bear in mind this is a 6-voice in total, but there are slots for 16 sounds in the current OS, with plans for adding another 16 out with a bank B, 2 expression and foot switch input, MIDI in and out, USB for hooking up to external MIDI devices, standard 15-volt power supply. It comes with an incredibly long, nice long lead, so you can mount it a long way away from the power supply. On-off switch, nice wooden end cheeks. So if you're familiar with Dave Smith's synth engine, then there won't be too many surprises here. We've got the same filter, the low-pass resonant filter, 2 and 4 pole, which is the Curtis chip. There's also a high-pass filter on here. There are 5 envelopes, pitch, amplitude, filter and 2 auxiliaries, 2 LFOs and 8 routing destinations, which you can modulate and cross-modulate all sorts of parameters. So you can get some really complicated synthesizer voices as well as drum voices. But there's also, in oscillator 3 and 4, which are the digital ones, a whole bunch of samples to choose from. A lot of different kinds of noise, various kicks, including real samples and your classic kind of electronic stuff. I think if we look here, there are some Sequential Circuits, Linn Drum 1, etc., 808, 909-ish. Then we go to some snares, again acoustic, hi-hats, what have you. The reason I'm shooting the screen here is because there's currently no editor available for the Tempest. I mean, it is analog, and they've kind of traditionally they've been made by third parties, so there may well be another one coming along sometime in the near future, but not right now. So taking that line into consideration, what we've actually got here is a kind of digital drum machine and an analog synthesizer hybrid. In fact, you can set it up in a number of ways. I've got it set up here playing on the keyboard. So I'm triggering pads with one channel and I'm playing a synth with other. It's possible to play this as a 6-voice analog synthesizer. But let's take a listen to some of the demos and see what kind of sounds it's capable of. Right, before we get started, I'll just go into the load and save just to give you an idea of how things are structured. You're starting with a project. A project is a collection of up to 16 beats, which can be up to 4 bars long. Each beat is a collection of 16 sounds which will be expanded to 32. There is a sound bank B button, which is not implemented yet. That's coming in the new OS. And then each sound is in an individual sound that goes on each of the 16 pads. So let's press play. And we're playing the first pattern in this, which was based on the Rogers beats. Pressing another pad will trigger the next pattern at the quantize point. That's because I've got the 16 beats mode switched for the pads. If I can switch to sounds, it means that I'm triggering sounds, but we'll stick with this for the time being. Now, I've also programmed some beats in myself, which I think if I press this one, this is one that I've done. And you can hear, if I bring in some of the other, this is the output stage, there's the compressor that comes in. You can really dial that in, squash the sound up. This is an analog compressor. These settings are remembered. I've also got a distortion circuit, which I can affect the entire mix output and beats from. These two are stored with a beat. So I now play another beat of mine. You can hear that I've got, I go to the sounds mode. I've got a number of sounds playing, a couple of different synth sounds, plus several drum sounds. While we're in pattern mode, there's some real-time effects. We can affect the whole thing globally. We've got a low-pass filter here, resonant one, which affects the entire pattern. Audio mod as well. High-pass filter. And the feedback function that you see on the Mofo. I can go to the 16 mutes and I can mute voices. Bring them in and out as I wish. There's also these touch strips. This one's mapped to the filter. Pitch. If I enable the other ones. High pass filter. Lots of control there. These are pressure sensitive as well as touch sensitive. I myself am much more used to using the computer environment for creating beats, but Roger Linn, I'm guessing it must be him, has introduced quite a lot of useful copy and paste type features within this environment. Let's take a look. So I'm in beats mode at the moment, so each pad represents a pattern. Now this is quite a nice ambient set from somebody called Trinculo. I'll stop it and bring in another beat. Here's some synth stuff. Now, that's really, really easy. I like this beat. I could just press copy, hit the beat I want to copy from, to the beat I want to copy to, and I'm done. And no change in playing. The same token, if I'm in the sounds mode, say, I like that sound, I hit copy, hit the pad I want to copy, the pad I want to copy to. Now I've got it on two separate pads and I can maybe edit it. It's great for variation. Again, this can all be done without any kind of stopping in playback. For those who like to tweak, there's also this grid editor which allows me to select various notes on the grid, select the point on the grid, and then select the parameter I want to tweak with this button. So you can get fairly tweaky if that's what you want. Now, obviously, we're not all into playing off pads. Certainly, I'm not. I prefer playing off a keyboard. I just find it easier. But that's quite all right, because what you can do is actually hook it up via MIDI. On my split here, I've got pads in the left hand, and I've got access to the synth channel, which is on a separate MIDI channel, which allows me to play up to 6 voices, depending on how many drum voices I've already got playing. And you can record all of that into a pattern, although it will be subject to the master quantize value, which is from 1/8 notes right up to 30-second triplets. In my case, that's a good thing because my playing's so appalling. There's also another cool way to trigger patterns, and that's using pad hold mode. I've got it on, and that means when I press a pad, it plays the pattern automatically without pressing play. Now the thing is, it picks up in the right place wherever you are, so it's not like you're re-triggering the whole thing, and that's quite a nifty feature. So a lot of these features are great for live performance as well as in the studio. Unfortunately, you can't access the pattern triggering via external MIDI, which would have been great for if you're a drummer, you just have a set of pads, like clip launching almost. It would have been, you know, quite a useful feature. Additionally, you can't send the Tempest program changes to load projects. So if you're going to be running a number of different tunes live, you're going to have to be poking around with buttons and loading things manually to go with your set, which is a bit of a shame. shame. Right, another thing to notice is the feel of this drum machine. I mean, it's tight. There's no denying that it has a very tight feel, but there's also this swing function which you can introduce, which starts to bring in that sort of classic MPC swing. You can get it right up to the overly ridiculous side, but it's a nice little extra addition to sort of dial in a bit of feel if you want something. You can even have just a tiny bit of swing, just helps sort of pep it up a little bit. So Tempest certainly is a very capable drum synthesizer. I mean, the sounds that you can create in it are legion. There's so much tweaking and possibilities in there. It's brilliant. For some people, if you're coming to drum synthesis and thinking it's a piece of cake, I'll tell you now, actually there's so much detail that's required to get a good drum sound, and it's not just in Tempest. You have to spend a bit of time getting the sounds you want, and that's the whole point of analog after all. But Tempest allows you to do that because it has such a fulsome sound engine. Really, when it comes to drum sounds, you have to go with your heart, I suppose. I mean, it's whether or not they create the sounds that you feel an affinity with. So you're going to have to check the demos out, and if you get your hands on one, try it out perhaps before buying if you're not already convinced. One of the downsides, I think, really is that the OS system is undergoing updates. You know, it's not all there right from the get-go. In fact, one of the major omissions, I think we're at version 1.1, is that we can't have any odd time signatures. It's all only 4/4. And for some people, that could be a problem. I mean, you can't even do 6/8. And so, you know, but that will be coming in a future OS update. And that's one thing that Dave and Roger are very clear and open about. You know, there are going to be releases coming in the not distant future where these features are going to be implemented. Heck, I mean, if you buy one and you feel very strongly about something, you might even be able to influence what actually happens inside the box. So, you know, that could be a good investment. Speaking of investment, it's not a cheap instrument. I mean, this is, but it is a true analog synthesizer instrument and allows for fully real-time creation, manipulation and arrangement of beats without stopping. So, you know, it's got a very strong feature set from that point of view. It's $14.58 UK pounds, roughly $19.99 US dollars minimum advertised street price. So what you need to do is think about whether the sounds suit you and whether or not you want that analog goodness in your life, because for some people, nothing else will do.